My name is Mark England, and I've been a volunteer with ODA for about 4 years. I joined ODA, started working with them in 2020. It was actually on a house hunting trip to Hawaii in 2019. Stopped by one of the dive shops that works directly with ODA, and the guy at the counter actually told us about this volunteer program that they were a part of, and it sounded like something we wanted to be involved in. I would have to say that I'm most impressed with the leadership of ODA. I think from the CEO down to the board of directors and everyone in between, there is a belief that what we are doing with ODA, what we're working for, what we're striving to do is one of the most important things when it comes to particularly ocean conservation. And I think ODA does just that, and that's why I continue to come out as often as I can. Every dive, I feel like we've accomplished something. I actually get a feeling in my heart and soul that we are doing good work, and it's making not only the oceans better, but people see what we're doing, and hopefully it gives them a feeling for maybe there's somehow that they could contribute to similar kinds of work. Regardless of the fact that we are out there sometimes every month to possibly the same area, we find that there's just an endless supply of trash that needs to be recovered. And that's one of the principal ways that ODA goes about their conservation work in removing debris from the ocean. You can look out over the ocean and it looks pristine, but when you get below the surface, you can see every day that there's a lot down there that shouldn't be there. And so ODA and the volunteers are doing their utmost to get rid of it. I would have to say that my favorite story with ODA is really almost a catch-all of a lot of the work that we have done with Haia Pier near Kaneohe on Oahu. And I say that because we have worked that pier at least 5 separate times over the last 2.5 years. And what makes that pier unique is 2 things. The amount of tires that we are removing seems endless, something close to 500 tires over the last 3 years. But for me personally, I have been able to recruit a lot of military folks, not necessarily divers, but just people that want to contribute, want to volunteer, and see this as a way that they can do good for the community, to come out and, in many cases, lend their muscle to get those tires out of the water. So that, to me, is the best way to express why this is a good part of what we're doing. My wife and I dive literally as often as we can. If the weather's good, we're diving. As far as my favorite locations to dive, I would honestly say that's a very difficult question. I've been fortunate over almost 40 years of diving to have dived across many continents, many locations, places that people would not believe that people actually dive there. But I would say that probably my favorite sites, if I could at least list a couple, would be the San Juan Islands of Northwest Washington. I would also add the St. Lawrence Seaway in upstate New York. I would list the Red Sea. Fiji is a real big specialty for my wife and I. And I would also say that next week, literally, we are going to Indonesia. And I know that's going to be probably the dive site of our life so far. As far as garbage in the ocean, I would say that unfortunately on almost every dive we do, particularly around the Hawaiian Islands, we see garbage. But I would also counter by saying that we understand why a lot of that is there, particularly when it comes to fishing gear used by the locals, to include line, sinkers, and hooks. For many people on Oahu especially, that's part of their livelihood, catching fish for dinner. It's just that the way that they go about that adds a lot of trash, to the water. And so, as I said, oftentimes we are, on those same locations, cleaning up, in some cases month after month, because there's so much in the water. But there are other locations as well where we know there are trash. And when we see it, even though it's not an ODA sponsored dive, we will clean it up. ODA needs, sponsors. The work that we do is not all volunteer work. It takes, as we know, Conservation takes money. It takes people like in a variety of different businesses or corporations to actually show us, their support and provide us, the monetary support that we need. It's not done freely. If you send a boat out, for example, to go out and clean up the race, the boat has to be paid for. You have to pay for the gas, you have to pay for the captain, in many cases the dive master. All that takes money, and we really couldn't do some of the cleanup work that we do every time without the help of our donors.